Hello, everyone. I'm Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jim Teske. Thank you for tuning in to Teske's Tidbits this evening. A couple of things to talk about. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about how we're doing here as we're into the middle part of September as far as temperature and precipitation. And since we're actually close to the fall equinox, the autumnal equinox, we'll give you my take on the seasons. I know we talk about, fall, winter, spring, summer, but I'm going to make the case for more than 4 seasons, and we'll see what you think about that. But first off, again, we do want to talk a little bit about what's going on as far as the weather is concerned. First off, the lack of rain. That's really one of the big stories here. And this is the September rainfall so far. We're focused, through the first 15 days here. And notice only 2 days so far, the 4th and the 6th have had measurable precipitation. Other than that, it's either zeros or traces. In fact, since the Saturday, the 6th of September, we've had 9 straight days through the 15th with no measurable rainfall. We're already an inch below normal, and as we all know, at this point, we're already working off of a deficit for the summer as well. We'll talk about that in a moment, but take a look at these numbers. The monthly rainfall for September. And it's not just here in Syracuse. There you can see that just over half an inch in Syracuse, more than an inch below normal, but an inch and a third below normal in Rochester, almost an inch and a half below normal in Buffalo. Many parts of western, northern, and parts of central New York are under, what they would call abnormally dry weather. And this pattern looks like it will change. Now, back to the precipitation. I mentioned we're a little bit more than an inch below normal for the month of September through the 15th. And notice this comes off of 3 straight months with below normal rainfall during the summer months. July, in particular, was almost 2 inches below normal. So coming into September, we were already running about 3 1/3 inches below normal for the last 3.5 months. So in reality, we're probably more like 4.5 inches below normal through this point. So we're definitely dry. We could use the rain. Unfortunately, the pattern, at least into the beginning of next week, is really not favorable as far as that is concerned. Temperature trends here. We had a little stretch of cooler than normal weather where, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and even the 9th of September had high temperatures that were below normal. Several days where we were in the 60s, but we kind of recovered since then, and temperatures have risen 80 degrees on the 15th, was 6 degrees above normal. And, just to kind of keep in mind, we're running for the month a little bit more than 2 degrees below normal, but there are signs that temperatures would actually be above normal for the second half of the month. And if we can somehow claw our way out of that, it does raise the possibility of keeping a streak going. We've had 11 consecutive above normal Septembers, temperature-wise. Goes all the way back to 2014. The last time that we had a below normal September was in 2013. So essentially, it has been a while, you could say, since we've had a below normal September. And it's not like, we squeaked by in a couple of those months. The closest ones, I guess, 2014, but we were 0.8 of a degree above normal. Last September, we were about 4.5 degrees above normal, and in 2015, we were 5 degrees above normal. So that gives you some of the raw numbers. I did mention we do want to talk a little bit about what I think the seasons should be broken down into. And we'll see if you agree on that when we come back with more on Teske's Tidbits. Welcome back to Teske's Tidbits. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jim Teske. Now we're going to get into the seasons. Monday, the 22nd of September, is the autumnal equinox. It'll arrive, I think, a little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. And I thought I would take a look and show you how things are broken down. There's different kinds of seasons. There's meteorological fall, for example, which are the months of September, October, November. But then there's astronomical seasons. And you can see on this particular graphic that, you have the vernal equinox in spring, summer solstice in June, autumnal equinox in September, winter solstice in September or in December. And it's all based on the position of the sun. The Earth is tilted. The vernal and autumnal equinox, we're about to hit the autumnal equinox. That's when the sun's rays are directly above the equator at that particular moment. Again, a little after 2 o'clock on Monday afternoon will be the autumnal equinox. And the amount of daylight on that day is about 12 hours. I say about that because of the shape of the Earth, which is not an even sphere. It's kind of elliptical in its shape, kind of like an egg, I guess you could say. Our actual point where 12 hours of daylight equals 12 hours of nighttime would be on Thursday, not Monday, but it's very close. So that's the spring and the summer part of it. As you take a look at the summer solstice, which occurs around the 21st of June, at that point, the Earth's rays are directly above the Tropic of Cancer. That's at the latitude of about 23 degrees. So if you were in Miami, the sun's almost directly overhead. That's as high as the sun is in the northern hemisphere. Our days are at their longest at that point. Here in Syracuse, I think our daylight's a little bit more than 15 hours. The Arctic Circle, that's where daylight is there for 24 hours. The Arctic Circle, they do not have any daylight at that point. So that's the summer solstice in the summer season. And then the winter solstice, first day of winter, which is on December 21st, that's when the sun's rays are directly above the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern hemisphere at a latitude of about 23 degrees. That's when our daylight is at its shortest. Here in Syracuse, it's about 9 hours of daylight. We have those sunsets that are close to 4:30 at that point. Arctic Circle is encased in darkness at that point. The Antarctic Circle, the Antarctic continent, looking at 24 hours of daylight around that time. So, those are the astronomical seasons. But, if you kind of look at how our weather plays out, I don't think you can, box up the seasons tightly and wrap them in a bow and say there's 4 distinct seasons here in Syracuse. I think if you were to dig in a little deeper and look at some of the numbers and how things play out, I think you would find that, there are more than 4 seasons. Personally, I think that there are 6 distinct seasons in central New York. And so let's give you the breakdown. First, since we're approaching fall, I'm going to give you what I think is the true fall season. And here are my reasons why. So let's take a look. I'm calling it the fall season, mid-September to Halloween. At that point, we definitely feel that summer's gone. The humidity is gone at that point. 90-degree weather, for the most part, is pretty much done at that point. So you're out of that true summer weather. Some of the other things, this is the time of year where you feel you get that bonus second summer, what was, called back in the day Indian summer, where you get those sunny days, warm weather. And it's interesting when they came up with a definition for second summer of Indian summer. The definitions that I saw never mentioned how warm. Does it have to be in the 70s? Does it have to be in the 80s? Does it have to be a certain number of degrees above normal? Or how long does that period of weather last? I had a long time ago, 10 or 15 years ago, I had mentioned on the air that we've got one really nice day coming, but you can't call it an Indian summer. It's only one day. But a gentleman called me and insisted that it could be an Indian summer day. The definition that I found in the American Meteorological Society once said that it's a prolonged period of unusually warm weather, and it's usually followed by the first frost of the season. So that's the second summer, or Indian summer. And a lot of people say that fall is their favorite season. They enjoy fall the best. And again, I think part of it goes back to that first thing that I said. The humidity is gone, so you don't have that humidity to contend with. So as a result, it's more comfortable out. And also, I think you get more consistent periods of dry weather where you can get out and do things. Where in the summertime, on some of these warm days where it's humid, you get scattered showers and thunderstorms. Doesn't mean the day is a total washout, but you do get these days where you do have scattered showers and storms that you can contend with. And we're going through one of these stretches right now where we're seeing a prolonged period of dry weather. Of course, for some, that's not necessarily a good thing. People on wells don't necessarily like this dry weather that we're having right now. Okay, so that's what I think the fall season is all about. Okay, so here's our next season, and this is what I call pre-winter, otherwise known as November. Now, technically, astronomically speaking, meteorologically speaking, November is in the fall season. But bear with me here. These are some of the reasons why I don't think you can truly call it fall. And first off, we average about 10 inches of snow during the month of November. So to me, that doesn't scream fall. The next thing on this list, second summers are still possible during that time period. We could still have some stretches where, it gets into the 60s. So it is still can be pleasant at that point. And also, it's our cloudiest month, tied with the month of December in Syracuse. And, this is where you get your earliest sunsets in Syracuse. You start, you go back to standard time. So your sunsets are close to 4:30 in November. So you get that, you're getting dark very early in the evening. Now, back to the snow, I'll also mention, Jim, 10 inches of snow, maybe you want to call it winter. And I'm like, no, not quite, because usually, not all the time, but usually, you get that snow, a couple of inches of snow, and it melts right away. It's not like you're building up necessarily a snowpack. So that's why, I can't really call November a winter month just yet. So those are two of the seasons. Now, let's get into what we would call true winter. And we'll set this up where it's December through mid-March. And that covers, on average, about 80% of our seasonal snowfall. It's also our coldest time of the year, especially December, January, and February. And of note, our record low temperature is 26 below zero, and it's happened on 3 occasions. Once in December, back in the 40s. I don't know the exact year. Don't have that right off the top of my head. January ones. That preceded the blizzard of 66. So that was in January of 1966. And then also in February, I believe 1979. So those are typically our coldest period for us in Syracuse. And I've also thrown on there the blizzard of 1993, the superstorm of 1993. That's why I kind of extended into mid-March. I never feel that we've totally come out of it until we get past mid-March, because I know from the fact that the blizzard of 93 has occurred that we can still see significant snows into the middle of March. So I'm not ready to call off the dogs once you get to the end of February. Yes, we can have some nice weather in early to mid-March, but again, I'm not ready to give up totally on winter yet. So that's our winter season. Okay, so we're getting to that point. So that's that season. Let's get into spring, or is it spring? Let's take a look at the next season here. And we're going to call this post-winter, mid-March through April. And we're going to say at this point, the worst of the winter weather is over, but you could still have snow into the tail end of March. You can still have snow into April. You can still have wild temperature swings. You don't get that consistency that I think you want to have to call it spring, where you can get in there, you work in the garden, get some work done in the yard, get out and do outdoor activities. And you're still getting that nuisance snow in the air into April as well. So that's why we're not calling that spring. I'm not saying you can't have spring-like weather, but I'm not going to call that spring yet in that mid-March to mid-April time frame. Okay? So when is spring? Let's take a look. This is what I think true spring is. And I'm calling it May. You may think I'm shortchanging it, but if you've lived here long enough and you've lived through all these seasons, you kind of, I can see you out there. You're nodding your head. Okay, this kind of makes sense. By May, you're finally getting into more consistent warmth. We don't really start planning into May, and annuals usually wait until after Mother's Day. Some wait until just before Memorial Day, and by and large, no snow. Of course, we've had snow, most notably during the May in COVID in 2020. That was the Mother's Day weekend. And also in 1996, that was an infamous snow on Mother's Day where we had 2 inches of snow. But outside of that, snow is pretty rare in May in Syracuse. Not going to call that for higher elevations necessarily. So we may be shortchanging it a little bit, but I think that's reality. And then true summer, what I would call true summer in Syracuse, shapes up like this. We're going to go June through mid-September. And the main reason I'm going to do that is because our average highs are in the mid-70s or higher. Obviously, in July and early August, it's low 80s at that point. So our temperatures are a bit more consistent, warm enough to me. My personal opinion is that I could wear shorts. You could wear shorts in June through at least mid-September. So that's one sign to me that we're in the the true summer season. This is also our driest stretch of weather during the year. In particular, 2 out of every 3 days are dry during June through mid-September. The other seasons that I've mentioned are more like 40 to 45% of the days have some precipitation. So, this is more like it more in terms of dry weather, which again, along with the temperatures, allows for more things to be done outside. And why unofficially end it with Labor Day weekend, the unofficial end to summer? I say, bring it into mid-September, again, because of the temperatures and, fairly dry weather at that point. So those are what I would consider the 6 seasons that we have in Syracuse, starting with fall, pre-winter, winter, post-winter, spring, and then summer. Some people might have more than that. Some people want to stick with the 4 seasons there. That's fine as well. But those are what I would consider the true seasons in Syracuse. Let me know what you think. Send us an email at stormteam@localsyr.com and let us know what you think are the seasons and how they might break down here in Syracuse. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Teske's Tidbits. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll be talking in a couple of weeks. Take care.